A bright light shines at the end of the hall while someone tries to reach it. Suddenly, the boy looks at it with his eyes wide open for the surprise. When he sees a beast that jumps on him, the wolf jumps, but the boy manages to dodge and agile, making the creature crash against the wall, spreading debris everywhere. The creature realizes its failure and enters in a total fury mode. Desperate not to be caught, the protagonist runs away while the animal chases him without rest. Flashback moment. 10 years ago, a gigantic tunnel from another world suddenly appeared in Tokyo, and from that tunnel beasts with a very unpleasant virus began to crawl out. People were attacked and infected that day, and soon bearers began to appear, bringing with them secondary infections that devastated their guests, leaving more than 1 million dead. After that, more tunnels appeared throughout Japan, much smaller, and those without powers had to flee to save their lives, such as Seiki. Even after losing their parents and their sister being infected, all he can do is run at full speed. Kaido rushes to his team with the beast, still stepping on his heels while one of them screams, "Here they come." A boy asks if that beast is the last one, and another warns Seiki that the finish line is right there, very close. The boy continues to run, his face a mixture of panic and great determination. With the glowing axe, Gotoritsuki prepares to knock down the beast. It turns out that some people obtain special powers after receiving refined vaccines from bearers. Without thinking twice, the blonde guy charges the beast with his axe, his power acting as a protective shield against the bearers. The protagonist takes the opportunity to escape, while the man makes a just blow between the head and torso of the animal, spreading strawberry juice everywhere. Feeling victorious, the young man seizes himself for having given the monster a good beating, then grabs the creature's head to get the crystal. Excited, he shows the stone to the rest of the crew while examining it. Suddenly, someone calls Captain Goda. A wound appears, praising him for the work. Then he says that all the aircraft carriers in the area are finished, and that the tunnels have officially disappeared. Smiling, the captain says it's time to finish the day, adding that having a signal makes everything much easier. While Seiki Kaido simply sits there. Embarrassed, the boy can only look at the ground. We change scene where the protagonist is relaxing in a chair, observing the money the association sent for the work. The same woman who congratulated them is sitting next to him. He asks if everything is finished, and she replies that all the results were negative. While the rest of the crew talks cheerfully, Seiki complains that he does not like these inspections after the mission. Mizuno then scolds him, saying that he should not say that if he does not understand the current situation. The protagonist lowers his head, feeling uncomfortable, thinking about how he does not have immunity against the carrier virus, which means that he cannot receive the vaccine, since even a small scratch could mean the end of the game. Kaido reflects on how he has not encountered any case like his, and how that makes him the perfect Zevo. Mizuno tries to lighten the atmosphere, saying that he is super kind, and that others find it fun but that he really needs to relax with that. The protagonist asks if what he is doing is not good, since peace has returned, and concludes that if it cannot be a sign, he does not deserve to be called a purifier. Apologizing for making the young woman worry, the girl says that even without a special immunity one day, he will be recognized as a true purifier, but until then she will support him unconditionally. Rubberizing herself for what she just said, she gets very shy and the boy feels uncomfortable. Soon she gets untangled and says that he is going to look for a drink, leaving him alone. The protagonist laughs at himself, thinking that it is incredible that such a young girl would say that. Then he says to himself that he cannot let Mio see him so depressed. Suddenly the girl appears, lying on his lap, and he jumps. He quickly asks how long he has been there, and Mio says that he has just arrived. His sister says that she never thought that her brother so shy would be with a girl. The hero replies that she is just a colleague. The girl then points out that Mizuno has a rather prominent chest, leaving Kaido intensely smile. The protagonist asks if she can walk, and she asks him if he finished the job as a purifier. Seki then says that she was assured to take care of the chargers, making her sister smile, but suddenly she starts coughing in a strange way, which makes the boy rush to help her. Mayu says that she is fine and wants to have a brother who is a hero of justice and makes her feel super proud. Our boy is totally surprised by his words, and asks him to hold on a little longer until he finds a cure. The young girl sits down but tells her brother not to go too far. After a while, the protagonist says goodbye to Mio in the hallways, then receives a vibration from the clock on his wrist, indicating that another tunnel has just appeared. We see that the tunnel opened right in front of the hospital, leaving everyone inside the building completely moved. The team captain says that 2 carriers in one day is too much, but since they are all here, will he consider it a stroke of luck? The purifying group awaits the carriers, wondering if they will leave the same tunnel as before. Suddenly 2 huge beasts erupt from that place. Goda smiles, encouraged by the challenge, and prepares for action. One of the animals approaches stealthily, with a fierce look, but the guy softens his axe, making the strawberry juice splash everywhere. Someone screams that this is what they expect from Goda. The captain notices that something is wrong with the axe, realizing that it is totally worn out, and while one of the guys asks what's going on, the creature jumps on him. He screams in panic, asking if the leader didn't eliminate that thing. Red juice begins to sprout bubbles, while the young man screams the name of Goda. One of the guys begs for help, but Goda says that the boy is already finished. Goda, with fixed eyes on the beasts, asks what the hell is going on and why his blow did not impact. Suddenly another team member tells the captain to look forward because something wild is happening near the creatures. Out of nowhere, the boy who was attacked wakes up. Everyone around him is paralyzed by the commotion and fear. The boy's body floats and turns his head towards them, showing that he is no longer human while he swings on Goda. The blonde guy jumps back and screams to the humanoid to withdraw, then he throws the axe. The beast saves Lamdo. Everyone screams, asking what is happening, but Goda cannot explain it. Thinking, he says that when someone is hit by a carrier or is devoured alive or turns into dust, the human beast loads again, and with it, the dogs and monsters begin to charge lives. Goda's eyes open in horror, and he runs away, screaming that no one warned him about this. They rush to the hospital, passing at full speed with the people. The protagonist sees everyone hurrying up and asks if everything is over. When he hears the boy's voice, the captain's face changes and says that his job was to be the SIBO. Seiki goes back scared and asks what is happening. Suddenly, the glass door breaks into pieces, and the beasts break. The infected animals and humans charge against him and the other two. When the protagonist turns around to see what is happening, he realizes that among the beasts, there are humans attacking other humans. Goda pushes the protagonist to the ground, and when he looks back, he sees that the team has fled. In the middle of the chaos, his eyes fill with fear when he remembers Mio, who is quietly in one of the hospital rooms. Nervous, he squeezes his teeth and screams so that the infected humans follow him. One of the beasts runs after him. While the protagonist runs, we see that all the creatures are now focused on him, who grabs a mule and throws it back, hitting some of the infected humans. One of them stumbles with the mule, and all those who come after fall like domino chips. Kaido stops for a second, and we see a woman watching him while licking her lips. Looking to one side, Kaido sees an infected person chasing a woman with a baby. Without thinking twice, the protagonist hits the monster, but the bear rises again, and he tells the woman to run. Seiki looks back to see if the woman is safe. It is then when an infected person bites his arm, and several others charge against him. He tries to run but is dragged back while he is attacked. Thrown to the ground, the protagonist remembers his past, when he was the SIBO, and when Mio was just a little girl. Realizing that he has to find the cure before he dies. Suddenly, the clock in his wrist vibrates, and a crack opens on the hospital ceiling. He checks the clock and sees that the contamination index is 10,290, which leaves him completely amazed. Suddenly, a woman leaves the portal, holding a huge and beautiful mule. The hero stays there stunned, without knowing what to do. The creature then does one hit. Kaido closes his eyes without knowing that he is nearby. Red juice splashes everywhere. After a few minutes, the protagonist opens an eye and realizes that all the guests have died. Seiki turns his head back to make sure that no one has left. Suddenly a voice says that he never cared about the human world, but this encounter is quite interesting. The girl smiled enough and says that it would be a waste to let him die here. She floats on the handle of the mule, with a very ominous look. Hurt, the protagonist can't even pronounce a word, while the woman enthusiastically asks him to be her new partner. Behind the protagonist, an infected and a beast come up stealthily. The girl calls him, moving her finger. Still insecure, he remains stuck to the ground, and looking back, the protagonist sees the infected being destroyed by something that emerges from the ground. The stranger then says that something weak was trying to steal his bite, referring to the beasts and the infected that he has just sent to his perdition. Making another gesture with his hand, the unknown controls the spears that are nailed more deeply into the victims. The protagonist observes everything from his place on the ground, and then with one more gesture, the carrier finishes him, leaving the infected looking like two strainers surrounded by a jar of strawberry juice. Seiki just stays there totally misled, while the girl blames him and shows his power. Then he says that this is not the best place to chat, deciding to use his power to catch the boy, who starts to float while the creature observes him. He looks at her completely speechless. Suddenly the girl slaps his face, suggesting that he find a private place so she can infect him. Amazed, our protagonist tries to assimilate what has just happened. Suddenly they are no longer in the hospital, but relaxing on the top of the building. Scared, our boy checks his wounds and realizes that he is completely cured. A stranger appears only as a head, saying that the infection is complete, giving him chills, presenting himself as Mauritius, claiming that he can simply call her aunt. Desperate, he screams, asking if he will die because of the infection. The girl tells him to calm down, and that she would not let such a tasty food die so easily. Kaido asks if she is a carrier, and she asks if that's how humans call them. She asks if he is okay, since he was infected by some quite pathetic carriers. The protagonist remembers that he was super hurt, explaining that she is a superior being, and is controlling the virus inside him. Seiki and Kaido's eyes open pair by pair with emotion. He asks if that is really possible, and begs the woman to help him with his sister, who was infected 5 years ago, and has been trapped in the hospital since then. The girl asks the protagonist's name, and he introduces himself quickly. Han then says that he cannot grant his wish, explaining then that he has spread his roots throughout his body and now they are one. Seiki says he wants to exchange places with Mio, but Han says he will not do that, claiming that he only wants to connect with him, and that he would be finished if she left. Hearing this leaves the protagonist moved. Then he asks what he wants from him. The girl responds that she wants the rest from him, and to avoid killing him, He says that he will go slowly because he does not eat as much as other carriers, and therefore he will not interfere with his routine. Finally, Han asks Kaido not to stress, since that alters the flavor, and he concludes that it is basically a walking buffet. Meanwhile, Goda is screaming to someone on the phone about how ridiculous it is to be degraded. At the end of the hospital hall, 3 guys from his team listen secretly, also furious, and comment how they let 30 people die. And a carrier walking, asking next how a charger simply disappeared. Suddenly, the captain interrupts, super angry, asking if he made contact. One of the guys responds that he said he would relax, and then regroup. The blonde murmurs that he doubts that he appears, announcing then that the charger flooded because of him and therefore, he has to take responsibility. Scared, the other guy simply does not agree, while the man scolds the protagonist about his rank, and says he never wants to see him again. Suddenly he looks back, and sees Kaido's sister in the hospital hall. Thinking of the boy as a mojo, he continues to watch him. Suddenly his face twists into a cruel smile. In another part of the hospital, the protagonist and Mercha descend floating together, and she asks him where he is going. He himself responds that he has questions to ask, but he needs to see Mio. The woman makes a disgusting mojo, asking what his problem is. The protagonist stops dry and says that his parents died because of the carriers, and now she waits for him to relax with one. Tia responds that it was not his fault, and that he is directing his anger to the wrong target. Shooting, the hero says that she is the same type, but Tia says that this could be a great opportunity for him, and asks him if he remembers that attack he underwent. The protagonist feels that the woman then releases the bomb, that the virus enhances physical abilities like crazy, but there is an inconvenience. They continue attacking until they are totally destroyed. The protagonist thinks that this is a disaster, but then the girl bows and whispers to him that he is special, because he will continue to do the same while obtaining incredible strength. Then he insists that there is much more that he still does not know. A transformation is activated, and the boy is scared trying to see what is happening. Suddenly his arm transforms into a beastly arm, with claws with pure wolf vibes. He screams, completely losing control. Balancing his arm destroys the wall, letting his aura explode everywhere. Tia says that the stronger the bond, the more power it will accumulate, and that this is the power he has been longing for, since now he can knock down carriers. Seiki, with his eyes wide open, asks if this is true. The girl looks at him with a look, and his aura returns to life in his arm. Kaido sees someone approaching. 2 guys approach the protagonist, and one of them says that he has finally located him. Taken by surprise, the protagonist asks what they are doing there. One of them smiles and says that he just wanted to say goodbye, while Kaido hides his arm. Another boy, with a suspicious look, says that after the chaos he caused, they can no longer cover him. The young man asks if they are really going to blame him for everything, while one of them says that this is not how you talk. Then he claims that they are only doing good use of a useless load like him. Clenching his teeth, the protagonist says that in no way he agrees with that. With a serious look, the boy says that he thinks he should ask his sister. Seiki's eyes darken before this. He asks what the young man wants to say about that. One of them laughs, saying, Goda must have scared the girl, and he's probably crying now. Calmly, the protagonist advances, but one of the boys blocks him, saying that they have not finished talking yet. With a fierce tone, Kaido tells him to move. The boy answers abruptly, asking who he thinks he is, but Kaido throws a punch with his arm transformed. The guy flies away, strawberry juice spitting everywhere. He crashes against a wall and falls to the ground, totally unconscious. The scene leaves, the other 2 boys move. The protagonist then says that he will only say it once more, that they get out of their way. He crosses eyes with the remaining boys who are staring at him. One of the boys says his name but gets punched in his place. The friend barely sees him coming while Kaido knocks him down. Now he has a bruised face and he lacks teeth. The last one tries to strangle Seiki, calling him a mojo, but the protagonist's transformed hand grabs his head. He notices that the boy's eyes also shine in red. With a massive blow, our boy crashes against the ground and runs out of there, leaving everything destroyed. Seiki kicks open the door to his sister's room and realizes that it is empty. The bed is made. Suddenly his phone vibrates in his pocket. While he takes it out, he thinks it is strange that someone is calling at this time, but when he answers, it is Mizuno. She is saying words like captain and his sister, but she can't say it. She only tells him to keep to the margin. Then she says that Mio is at the exit near the second parking lot, and that they will need the police. With the call finished, the protagonist whispers what she said about the place. Outside, Goda is holding Seiki's sister with one hand, while Mizuno tries to stop him. She asks if she doesn't understand what he is doing, and warns that this is a kidnapping. The captain shouts at her to shut up, while he throws her aside. The girl falls to the ground unconscious. The blonde continues to walk, murmuring so that no one gets in with him, then resumes his mission. Mio, inside the car, claims that if he takes the mojo to the headquarters, Seiki will have to follow him too, and in that way he may assume the blame. Suddenly, the windows of one of the rooms explode, and Kaido jumps from one floor. The glass rains on the car, making Goda look up curiously. Suddenly, the protagonist falls, even with those red eyes. The blonde looks at him totally moved, while our boy grabs the neck of his shirt, then throws the guy out of the car with all his strength, and sends him flying like a paper plane. Tia says that her strength is unique, and that it is not surprising to come from someone she has infected. Seiki sees his sister in the back seat, totally unconscious. He looks at Mizuno with a look and sees him also unconscious on the floor. The blonde comes back enrolling and calls him a total loser, claiming that he is just a piece of uncomfortable junk. The boy notices some strange things on the face of the man, and Tia says that he is infected and about to become a sandwich. His arm had been bitten and looked like a tomato. Kaido asks if the guy was bitten. Goda, with his face peeling off like a bad sunburn, says that he is going to kill him, and charges against the protagonist, who dodges the attack not once but several times. The protagonist screams, asking if he is really going to seriously want to eliminate him. The former captain says that this is exactly the plan, and raises his axe to soften her. But while he tries to hit him, the protagonist intervenes and puts his hand under the axe, pushing the weapon with all his strength. Then he asks if he did something so bad that Goda had to drag his sister to this. He squeezes his teeth while he asks, and the blonde says that he doesn't care about the grudges. Seiki's eyes darken. The charger says that getting into the boy and eliminating him is just a relief from stress, and that he would like to have seen Mio's face when he told him about his brother's work, which puts him at the limit every day. However, he does not complain and works hard, all for loving her so much, to her that it is just an useless load that consumes medicines. The protagonist squeezes the axe even harder, while Goda begins to talk about the time, preparing to kick him, launching Kaido far away with all his strength. The young man is thrown but keeps standing. The blonde loads with all his strength, screaming that he is simply dying, and raises his axe. But when he gets closer, he realizes that his axe is now corroded and crumbling. Literally, the guy looks with disbelief. One of Seiki's eyes is red, and it seems not to fully understand the power he feels. Suddenly the former captain, disarmed and without options, looks at the boy, who squeezes the axe and prepares to attack, punching the guy with great force, making him spit strawberry juice and scream in pain. With the impact, Goto flies back but continues to mock the prota, just to be interrupted by another blow that sends him even further. Turning around, Tia says that looks painful. After crashing hard against a car, the blonde seems to be unconscious. Seiki then walks towards the car where his sister is, while the man is meters behind him. Suddenly Goner wakes up screaming and furious, making the protagonist leave, realizing that after his opponent is turning into something wild. In an open and close of eyes, the guy becomes a massive beast, completely red and deformed. The monster tries to hit the protagonist, who defends himself with his arm. Seiki is shocked by the return of the creature, while he is thrown far away, falling on his feet. We see the boy's sister again, even inside the car, who is in danger now that Goto has transformed. Tia appears next to the prota and says that now the blonde is a feed, asking him what he will do. Suddenly the creature sees Mayu in the car. Kigo raises his hand from afar, takes off his glasses and stretches them to the ground. He passes his hand through his hair and says that the guy hurt Mio. The beast turns around and looks at him. Suddenly a pink rose sprouts from the protagonist's arm, solidifying itself in a guadana. Morisha smiles, totally in tune with the scene. Kaido grabs the handle of the guadana and says that if it is to protect his sister, he will hunt anyone. Standing with his guadana, Seiki faces the red-eyed creature, who begins to scream as he loads forward. The red-haired girl appears and says that she wants to see what the prota can do. In a blink of an eye, the monster gets very close to the boy. Our boy looks up, showing that he is not afraid of anything. Without a doubt, the creature swings his fist. To defend himself, Kaido turns his guadana at high speed, making the monster lose a hand. Appearing behind the creature, the prota shows that he has serious movements. Enraged, the red monster returns to the charge and attacks for the second round, but our boy dodges quickly. Starting an epic exchange of blows, the red-haired girl appears again and says that the feeds do not feel pain, and continue to attack until they are completely finished. Seiki says that, in that case, he will continue to hit until it happens. Running, he launches another epic attack that sends the huge beast flying backwards. It turns out that what drove our hero were his memories of being destroyed by the great blonde guy. With the guadana well grabbed, he does a mortal blow, saying that the man did a lot for him. The monster is finally finished, and can no longer attack because it has been turned into minced meat. Our boy moves away, feeling quite proud of himself. In the hospital, Mio finally opens her eyes and meets face to face with her brother, who is excited to see her awake. Sticky asks how she feels since she looks totally fine, and she says she's fine. Then she reveals that the one who made her faint was the boy who saved her. Our boy sits down and says that it was Mizuno who warned her. Out of curiosity, Mio asks if she refers to the girl with a huge chest. When he confirms, she says that the prota should thank him totally later. Suddenly, her face goes from calm to scared, remembering the blonde boy. Then she says that he mentioned something, and the prota asks if she talks about Goto Retsuki. When realizing that yes, because of how Mio reacts to the name, Sticky says that this guy was infected by a new type of carrier and was totally out of himself. That's why everything she said was crazy. Surprised, Mio screams, asking if that means he was not in danger because of her, leaving our boy quite shocked. With tears in her eyes, Mio says that he only hurt himself because he loves her. In disagreement, the prota tells her sister not to be silly, since she has an incredibly strong older brother. With her eyes very open, the girl says that he really looks different, and the prota feels. Outside the hospital, we see two boys chatting. Looking at everything from the window, Kaido says that with all the chaos, things are going to be very crazy for a while, so he goes home smiling, and Mio says that's fine. Then he asks the boy to take care of himself. They take us to the prota's house, where he has just arrived and already has company. Returning to the redhead girl, he says that they first need to clarify things, referring to when he defeated Goto Retsuki. But his thread of thought is interrupted by Aunt San, who chose that moment to transform. Smiling, he says that carriers are virus clusters, and if they are of high class, they can change their appearance. But the most important thing is that Kaido says, if that's what interests him. Looking at the prota's face, the woman asks him to continue trying to stay focused. Our boy asks if he could use that power alone. As he is the host of the redhead girl, she says yes, since the fits are stronger than normal humans, and in his case, his abilities received an impulse. Kaido then asks if that means he can fight against the carriers, even without special powers like other purifiers. Sand says that the virus inside him, which maintains the infection under control, works with the same energy. Happy, the prota says he understands. The girl then says that even so, he is quite weak and cannot even take full advantage of his power. After all, she only gave him a little bite. But if his bond deepens, will he become stronger? But with that, he will also live less. The prota says that this is definitely a problem, but San assures him that he will not pressure him, because he would love to stay for a long time. Embarrassed, Seiki says they need to keep all this a secret because if someone discovers that he is with a carrier, the game is over, which means that they must also avoid high-level purifiers. San says he would never lose against a human, but he accepts to do this just to keep him safe. Kaido is excited to hear that, but the girl gets up and he says that perhaps the boy just wants to keep it a secret to have it all for him. Desperately, the protagonist says it's nothing like that, but San claims that he seems quite confused, ending any chance that our boy is arguing. In another place, we see a drone that seems to be spying. Suddenly, a strong thunder occurs, and we discover that it was caused by a massive dinosaur. Scared, a guy with armor tells the others that they need to keep the line, but another soldier insists that they won't be able to resist much. Suddenly, a plane appears in the sky. Inside, a voice warns the boy that they are approaching the airspace of the target. Then a countdown begins. On the ground, the dinosaur continues attacking mercilessly, screaming. The soldiers panic, saying that at this rate the monster will open its path, while they call out to Tano. Suddenly, something falls from the sky. It's the boy from the plane, and as he descends, he prepares to take a massive blow, pointing directly at the red dinosaur. The creature feels that something is coming, but it's too late. A huge explosion of blue lightnings illuminates the scene, leaving all the soldiers completely stunned. Emerging from the dust, the hero declares that he has just added another legend to his epic saga. It turns out that this is Tinajusi, a first-class purifier, and he is only 21 years old. All warriors triumph, excited to be saved. Smiling, the boy talks to someone asking if he is ready for another mission because a new type of carrier has appeared, infecting humans and returning to all super-violent. In addition, there is a key witness who was left behind. With a clever smile, Tianer says that the situation is seriously enough to be called, which makes everything even more interesting. The next morning, Kaido checks his bank account and realizes that he only has 623. He throws himself to the ground, shouting that he is in the ruin and that he needs a new job as soon as possible. Sitting in a chair, Sen asks why he still needs the help of the association if he can defeat the carriers alone. Rubbing his head, our boy explains that fragments are the main cash flow for the association. Without them, trading with purifiers or maintaining peace would be impossible. That's why he can't just take everything. The girl in red says that everything is super complicated. Getting up, the protagonist says that fragments, also known as the heart of a carrier, can suppress the virus. Acting as a remedy for infected people means the survival of Mei, which means that later they might not have a choice. Sam then points out that right now the boy can't even buy food, and that in itself only counts as an emergency. Taking his phone, the protagonist sees a message from the Purifiers Association, notifying him about the next skill evaluation. Art Boy gets ready and goes out, thinking if Mizuno will not appear, and supposes that his wounds are still healing. Suddenly Sam appears and asks what kind of event is this, explaining. The protagonist says that it is an annual skill evaluation conducted by the district, simulating real combat, so the classification is based on real achievements and the results of the evaluation. We discover that in the Purifier classification system, there are 5 classes that decide the rewards of the missions. Sam asks what Chaos classification is. He says it is a GTHC class. The girl then questions if he is so weak that he can't even get to the 5th class, bothering the protagonist a bit. While Seiki passes, another boy surrenders to him for being in the 6th class and presenting himself to the evaluation. One of the guys jokes saying that he heard that a protagonist is as good as a SIBO, and that they are perhaps trying to see how fast he can run away. Sam asks if they should eliminate the boys, but Ko says that would be too extreme, and since he does not want to draw unnecessary attention, he will be contained during the evaluation. On the racetrack, someone gives the signal, while another guy calls the next participants. The annoying boy from before approaches and says that he will have to run with the 6th class, asking why Seiki is not using the body improvement through special immunity. Laughing, he says he forgot that the boy has no immunity and apologizes, making his friends laugh too. Positioning himself, the boy says he will show how to do it, then decides that this is the perfect time to talk badly about Mayu, claiming that the protagonist, in addition to being useless, has his own family as a burden, and it would be much better if the girl simply stretched her legs soon. To relieve the boy's side, Ko remains silent while the guy prepares to start. Still talking to himself, the idiot says that he will be waiting for the protagonist at the finish line, but when the shot rings, Seiki simply shoots, leaving everyone else in the dust because he decided to accept the help of San, even if that draws attention. After gaining speed, he jumps on a massive ramp while his companions stay there with their mouths open. Unable to keep up with the pace, smiling, the blonde girl says she thought she would be contained. Furious, our boy says that the plans changed, and now he will make everyone bite the dust. We see Tino and UCI observing the race from a distance, while the protagonist continues to run and jump without stopping, passing at full speed through tunnels that interlace between the trees. Screaming, one of the boys screams that the young man needs to calm down in this part, since it is the most complicated section of the route, with support spaced at 3 meters. Concentrating all this power on his legs, Kaiba demonstrates that he will need to reduce the speed, leaving the competitors totally shocked. Our boy arrives on the other side without tripping once, and crosses the finish line while the crowd goes crazy for him. Another competitor approaches, screaming that the protagonist cheated, and that his weight vest is fake. Kaido, keeping it real, throws his vest at the guy, who realizes that it is actually super heavy, so heavy that it makes him fall off the rocks. Our boy goes to the next stage, thinking that the special immunity gives him an impulse, but honestly he doesn't care. With all his strength, Seiki balances the hammer to hit the target, sending the score indicator flying through the entire structure, exploding in the air. Then we are in the white shot area, where the competitors must hit the wooden figures aligned. With a single throw, our boy pulverizes the figure that represented the monster, leaving some shocked and others furious. Without muting, he continues to throw, but accidentally hits a crucial pillar of a giant structure that begins to collapse. The nearby guys start screaming, while Kaido simply stays there totally impassive. Sam praises the protagonist for his epic throws, while the other competitors call him a monster. Suddenly, something catches the attention of the red-haired girl, and also catches the attention of our boy. In the sky, a massive flash appears in a blue flash, and out of nowhere, a giant sword falls chopped down towards the protagonist, who barely catches it. Standing on his own sword, Tino asks how he reacted so quickly. Shocked, our boy realizes that he is face to face with a first-class purifier, and all those who watch go crazy over the hero's entrance. Tino calls the protagonist by his name, showing that he knows him, and says that the boy has definitely captured his interest. So, since they are on a special stage, he wants to fight right there. The hero jumps from his sword and lands on the ground, taking his weapon from the hands of Seki, and asks if the boy knows him. Stunned, our boy thinks there is no way he doesn't know him, since he is a big Purifier fan and even has great merchandise. It turns out that only 7 out of 10,000 people are Purifiers, and this guy is first class among them, with skills so crazy that he could shave a mountain with a single blow. Tino also has the record for the greatest subjugation, basically a human nuclear bomb, and a total favorite of the gods. Kato feels super uncomfortable listening to all this from the Purifier himself. The hero says that the protagonist should feel honored, but our boy does not agree, claiming that fighting against a first-class Purifier is impossible. Without worrying, the blue-haired boy takes a small sword out of his big sword, saying that he does not plan to take seriously a 6th-class opponent. With his eyes very open, the protagonist is speechless, while Sam asks himself what the hell is Tina doing, then saying that this is boring. Seki thinks that it is actually fair, but looking forward he feels a tremendous pressure, and begins to reconsider his last statement. With a dark smile, the hero asks if the boy will only stay there unarmed. Scared, the protagonist runs towards the weapons and grabs a sword, saying that he is ready to start. Releasing lightning without stopping, Tino declares that it is time to start, loading forward with everything just after. Seki manages to block the blow, while the other competitors flee in fear of doing the following. Taking measures, our boy decides to run too. Irritated, the hero says that he is not playing the Pilla with him. Then he launches another attack at the speed of lightning. The protagonist's sword breaks in half, forcing him to do it quickly and grab another. His plan works and quickly takes out another weapon, while maintaining a determined gaze. Smiling, Tanima says that the guy has good eyes and decent reflexes, but he cannot continue running. This is not how it is fun. Trying to resist the endless blows, Kaido asks what the meaning of this battle is. Screaming, the hero says that he had already said that he was curious. Confused, our boy asks why they cannot simply chat, but the guy insists that the words are useless, and that if they cross swords he will catch him. Without understanding anything about this, Seki asks what the hell is going on and finally manages to soften his sword, but the hero simply stops her with 2 fingers without sweating. He says that Seki's attacks are too light, so he should probably raise the level. The protagonist is thrown back as if it were a feather, but somehow he stays standing. Thinking a lot, he realizes that Tanima was at a completely different level, compared to the beast mode of Goda. Deciding to grab the large panel of light that he dropped earlier, he throws the blue-haired guy. And surprise, it seems that he hit him in the chest. But wait, the young man holds the massive structure with one hand, leaving San totally shocked. Kaido's mind explodes. This is how the first-class power looks like. He admits that he was very wrong when he thought he knew what that force was about, because this level of power had not even crossed his head. After shaking his clothes, Tino asks how long the boy plans to keep his abilities secret. Being silly, the protagonist asks what he wants to say. Suddenly Tino appears next to him and says that he knocked down a 4th-class monster, which is impossible without a serious power. Decided to make his point clear, the Purifier kicks our boy on the back, and this time he falls to the ground with force. Tino warns that if he doesn't reveal his secrets, he will have to report it to the association. Desperately, the protagonist says he can't share too much, Tino raises an eyebrow and asks why he wanted to be a purifier then. Kurt, our boy, explains that he does everything to save his sister, who is infected. Tino understands that it is all a miasma stone, but he says that is not a solid reason. Keiko insists that he will do whatever it takes for his sister, even if it means risking his life. And Garibo stays silent for a moment, then he throws his sword directly at the protagonist. Kaido dodges just in time, escaping for a short time, picking up his big sword. The blue-haired guy says he feels bad for the boy, but he has responsibilities as a first-class purifier. Confused, Kaido asks what Tino's plot is, but Sand feels danger and tells him to get out. Our boy jumps back just when a massive explosion of blue lightnings heads towards him, leaving him totally scared, thinking that there is no way to escape this. But in some way he does, and when he lands, he whispers that Tino's strength is simply ridiculous. Scanning again, the hero says he knows that Kaido is hiding something, and he will risk everything to find out what it is, even if he is the same type of person who could become badder very fast. After another blow, the rocks fly everywhere, and Tino declares that he needs to get rid of a dangerous guy like Kaido, no matter how much it costs. On the ground, our boy is about to receive a fatal blow. While the hero says he doesn't take it personally, suddenly a huge red explosion bursts, catching the hero completely unprepared. His watch starts to beep like crazy, and after the shock passes, he says he knew that the protagonist would show his true self, seeing him soften a massive guadana with his arm shining in red. We return to the past, where Tino and an officer are watching the epic defeat of Goda by Kaido. Intrigued, the hero asks who else saw that. The officer says it's just him. And that's when Tino insists that they need to capture the boy. Worried, the officer sits down and promises to keep everything a secret, while the purifier looks closely at the protagonist's eyes through the screen. In the present, Tino says, "As I thought, Seiki has a totally different power, and he can't understand how it's possible, much less why he feels contamination in him." They are surrounded by a red fog, and not getting the answers he wants, Tino decides to throw our boy back, then goes straight to the grain asking if he's a transporter. Screaming, the protagonist says in no way. Tino then asks if he has any link with the operator. Seiki chooses to remain silent. Preparing to attack again, the hero says he will take it as a yes, then activates the propeller of his sword, charging with all his strength against the protagonist who clings to the ground. A dark look crosses the hero's face, but our boy does not retreat and counterattacks, forcing Tino to withdraw to avoid the guadana. Worried, the protagonist thinks that this guy is faster than someone with a dagger. A little further away, the other competitors observe the chaos developing, wondering what is happening while they see explosions everywhere. Seiki hits his attack, and the excited hero says he's really good at fighting, but he's wasting precious power. They're relaxed. Our boy is sweating to death thinking he should simply run away, but the problem is that he has no idea where to run. Tino approaches and tells him that if he is thinking of escaping, he could well throw the towel and stop dreaming that he can run away from someone like him. This hits our boy hard, leaving him even more scared, screaming. He insists that he is not an enemy. Tino then asks him if he is on the side of the association, and why he did not reveal that information before. Looking at his own hand, Kaido thinks that if people found out, he could take advantage of the powers of a bear. But if that happens, the life of his sister is at stake. With tears in his eyes, he swears that he will not get involved with the association. The hero finally seems to understand it, but he decides to charge again with all his strength. Terrorized, our boy wonders how Tino can be so fast. Throwing him to the ground, Tino says that he knows people like him. Then he exposes a theory, since people usually go beyond their limits to protect what they care about, what makes them worthy of trust. With Fungi and Kaido, Kaido asks what exactly that means to Meiji. Raising his sword, the hero says that his next move will definitely defeat our boy, and if he wants his sister to have a future, he has to fight with everything he has. The protagonist simply stands there, while Sand says that this is interesting, referring to the fact that Tino does not have wings but can fly with his own weapon. Acting, our boy captures the attention of the creature, and gives him the permission he longed for. Even excited, the girl in red asks him if he really knows what that means. Kaido asks if it is true that doing that will shorten his life, and without waiting for an answer, he says it is better to die than to disappoint Mio. Smiling, Sand says he understands it, and that in that case the host's desire is in order. After being bitten, Seiki tries to endure the pain while Tino prepares the terrain with all his strength. But suddenly, the level of contamination begins to shoot. Looking up, Sand says that was delicious. Even so, the hero continues to descend, ready to unleash his sacred justice attack, the bright meteor. Kaido's body begins to transform, making the level of contamination shoot. Surrounded by a blinding light, the hero approaches, and we see that the protagonist's guadana has tripled in size. Both begin to scream before crashing. Then boom, a massive explosion breaks out. Tino and Kaido do not break the visual contact, not even for a second. The protagonist struggles to keep his legs firm. Meanwhile, the hero closes his eyes and says that this is a shame. Even so, our boy does not let go of his guadana until it breaks into pieces and is thrown back. Emerging from the smoke, Tino shows that he is totally useless, unlike Seiki, who seems to be suffering a serious pain. Holding what remains of the great guadana, decided to end this, the hero raises his huge sword, but the protagonist decides to take advantage of the moment and attack, forcing the blue-haired boy to activate his shield to defend himself and avoid being hit by the blow of our boy, who is so strong that he makes the hero's shield go without releasing his sword. Tino says that is enough, leaving Kaido a little confused. With his free hand, the hero propels a massive punch to the young man, who screams in pain. While all the power of Sanesi drains from his body, holding the Protoss in his arms, Tino says that Seki should be proud because he is definitely a man of confidence. Sometime later, we see Seki still unconscious. Suddenly, he wakes up and catches the attention of the hero, who is relaxed on a bench right in front of him. Smiling, Tino says that the young man does not need to panic, because if he had wanted to abandon him, he would have done so a long time ago. Even scared, our boy thinks that the young man is right. The hero then says that the Protoss should not even think of running away, since they are in a helicopter heading to Tokyo, more specifically to the headquarters of the Special Purifiers Association. In panic, our boy asks if Tino is trying to kill him, or if he is going to hand him over to the headquarters, screaming. The hero says that he never mentioned anything about handing him over, revealing then that in reality Seki was summoned by the association. Tino takes the opportunity to ask if the young man knows that he was wrong during the test. In disagreement, our boy says that he only did that because of him. Changing the subject, the hero says that he wants to know about the hospital incident and that he can tell whatever, that he does not want to reveal the information in the headquarters. Kaido is all worried but says he understands. Tino intervenes, saying that the girl captured on camera was the hostess and that the power that the young man has comes from being his host. Our boy admits that he is a little misguided with all this. San appears and says that he would not want the hero to know about her. Confused, the blue-haired guy asks where the protist is looking and if he can show the hostess. Smiling ear to ear, the girl in red says no, because she believes that they would not be very good at it. Looking at the hero, Seki says he is right, saying that since the young man is super handsome, San is a little shy. The hostess asks if his translator job is broken, and Tino, with his hand on his chin, says that then he cannot do much. Our boy is stressed about going to the headquarters, but the hero tells him to relax, that there is no need to be scared, and in a ready-made plan. A little later, the duo arrives at the building of the association. Leaving the elevator, Yuzi tells the protist to keep the existence of the transporter secret, especially his strange obsession with him. They enter a room and the hero calls before entering. After receiving the good look, he opens the door and introduces himself, saying that a new transporter has appeared in the cities of Caligo, and that he is here to deliver the research report. Everyone on the table starts to look at Seki, who quickly realizes that he is face-to-face with the president of the Purifying Association, thinking that the guy looks much tougher in person than on television. With a face as if he had just eaten a lemon, the man thanks the hero for his work, and says that everyone should pay attention to the report. The technologist says that he confronted the new host in the place, and that the purifier of the 6th class, Seki, supported him. Super nervous, the protist practically introduces himself, screaming, saying that it is a pleasure to meet everyone. Kazuki asks what he wants to say with 6th class, while other guys ask if the young man is the one who took the special exam. Regardless, Kaido begins the explanation, saying that one of the features of the new transporter is that the people they attack become savages and spread a secondary infection, claiming that he showed this to everyone firsthand using what he learned from Tia. About the convergence situation, the protist says that the explosion occurred because the medical oxygen tank exploded. In fact, he informed both the new host and the person infected by the berserk. With emotion, the men in suits say that if this is true, it is a massive threat. Another guy intervenes, saying that it is worse than that, since the infected can now infect others. With crossed arms, Kazuki says that he needs to see the results, but first he wants to know if Tia is not saying that Seki attracted other hosts and eliminated them all at once. Because if that is the case, the credit is for the young man, claiming that he knows that there is something that the ruse is not revealing. Kaido tries to calm the nerves and stick to the plan, saying that in reality the transporter caught him well. Scared, two men ask if he is infected or immune. Our boy says he didn't think he was immune, but then he says that everyone should review the test of ability measurement they did that day to see the data for themselves. With his mouth open, one of the men says that this is a record, while the president of the association remains silent. Analyzing the graphs, the hero says that if he had to guess, he would say that this is the effect of getting in touch with a new strain of the D virus, which is not very different from the ability of special immunity, at least for him. Smiling, one of the members says that if this is true, it will open new doors for humanity, leaving all present excited. Thinking, Kaido says that everything came out exactly as Tino said it would happen. Let's go back to when they were in the helicopter, and the hero said that if he wanted to make a quick move, he would need to mix a little truth with a lie. After all, it would be a waste to eliminate him. After a few more explanations, the Prota asks why the purifier wants to help him if it would be easier to simply report him to the association. Standing up, the hero tells the young man not to misinterpret it. Then he affirms that he is not an ally of the association, but of justice, which means that he decides for himself what to do. Hearing this makes our boy think in May. Sitting down again, Tino says that he is doing this because it is the right thing, so he will do whatever it takes to help the young man as long as he does not cross any line. Although he is super surprised, Kaido simply lowers his head to thank him, but the hero says that it is too soon for that. Without realizing that the young man in front of him is only hiding his tears, we return to the present, where the hero says that he believes that the skills of Seki have increased in level, and honestly it is quite impressive. Because depending on how you look at it, his bond with the bear makes him someone important, so it is time to evaluate the situation. When suddenly Nagato, a high-level purifier, intervenes saying that everyone is ignoring a much bigger problem. leaving the Prota even more scared. With his powers activated, he asks if they are really going to trust that story. Then he points out that everyone seems to have forgotten how many people suffer from it, and being friends with an operator is simply a nightmare to think about. So she thinks that Seiki should be eliminated right now. Tino argues that doing that will not fix anything, and that the young man is also a victim, triggering a big debate. Suddenly Kazuki says that it is enough after all. The first-class purifiers should not fight each other. The hero advances and says that he has a suggestion, and that Nagato's words make sense since it is impossible to know when the virus will make the young man wild, so he will watch Kaido and make sure he is safe. The president thinks it's not a bad idea. With his mouth open, the Prota thinks that Tino is really incredible for using Nagato's argument to take control. But then, destroying the atmosphere, the blonde purifier says she has a problem, because the blue-haired hero is too close to the young man, and could they not make the right decision in an emergency? Kazuki tells her to go to the tap. Nagato then says she will be the one to watch Kaido. Sometime after the chaotic meeting, Tino apologizes to Seiki, saying he did not expect it. The Prota says he's fine, then asks what kind of person Nagato is. Then the hero says that if he had to summarize it in one sentence, he would say that she is the one who will exterminate all the carriers. Hearing this puts our boy more nervous than ever, who after a while is following the purifier. Nagato says that the responsibility of his team is only Tokyo, and in a few days they will develop a plan in which Kaido will be involved. Without much to do, the Pratista says he understands, while he thinks he needs to talk to Mayo soon. Surprised, the purifier apologizes for being rude during the meeting, and says that she has nothing against it. Smiling, Seiki says she's glad to hear that, but the woman says making friends with carriers is useless and a bit funny, so she doesn't want to be her friend. San says it's fine because she doesn't care either. Walking again, Nagato says the troops have gathered for a meeting, which is the perfect time for him to meet the team. Nervous, the Prota asks what kind of people are in the women's squad. Entering the room, the purifier apologizes for making everyone wait, making the other purifiers turn their heads immediately. Yagi, a third-class purifier, asks who is the boy with Nagato. Quickly, the woman introduces Seiki and says she will be with him for a while. Excited, Natsum asks how there can be people under the 5th class, while Suga says he has heard about the boy who cannot use special immunity. Laughing, Hattori asks why an useless person like that is on the team. Irritated, San tells Kaido that it's time to kill, making the Prota drop a not-so-strong no. Leaving the situation even more uncomfortable, everyone stays silent until Nagato says it was all Tino's idea, but she asked to watch the boy. Listening to this only moves the team more. Without giving more details, the woman says Seiki will go with them on the next mission, so everyone should take the opportunity to get to know him better. In an instant, the team jumps on the Prota, bombarding it with a million questions, some even super personal. Scared, our boy says he has nothing with Nagato and doesn't even know her well. Suddenly Yagi says that just by saying that, he has already lost 10% of his life, because everyone should know the incredible, intelligent, great and beautiful that Captain Nagato is. Hearing this makes Kaido smile. Then Natsum says he became a purifier for her, who saved his life once. Hattori intervenes, saying that the boy has told that story a million times, and he responds that it is better than just calling the captain beautiful. Suma joins the conversation, saying that Nagato's charm is based on his intelligence, while the pink-haired girl laughs, saying that they are all just a bunch of fools. Taking her phone, she said that she will show Kaido the secret video of the captain with a kitten, making everyone melt with so much tenderness. Suddenly something hit the phone with force, and it hit the wall right next to the Prota. It turns out that it was Nagato who threw a sword, dying of shame. He says that the device has just been confiscated. Quickly, everyone begins to apologize as if they had just spilled soda in a new game. Toriyomi, the second-class purifier and vice captain, appears and says that at this rate, everyone will stay behind, then declares that it is time to get going. Sometime later, we see the team walking through the forest. Nagato says that the contamination factor in that area is about 5,000, a fairly calm number to be honest. He also reveals that another teenager has been sent, but that everyone is fine. Suma comments that whatever they are hunting is super slippery, since there doesn't seem to be other operators around here. Thinking deeply, Tori says that it is the first time that he sees such a behavior pattern, and you have a bad feeling. Seiki takes the opportunity to introduce himself to the vice captain, since he could not do it before. The man presents himself back, all excited, and the pro says that he does not know how much he can help, but he is ready to learn. But to his surprise, the purifier says that he only works for the salary, so the boy should not expect much from him. Then he adds that he will eliminate anyone who interferes in his path. Scared, Kaido asks why everyone here is so strange. Natsum asks how they will do the subjugation if the monster does not appear, but showing that it is not so simple, a beast with horns comes out of the trees, ready to turn it into his lunch. Suma says that apparently the problem is solved, shooting arrows in rapid succession that fly towards the huge creature, and hit it with a full blow in the arm. With strawberry juice sprouting from his mouth, the monster simply falls to the ground. Suddenly another beast appears behind the team. Turning around, Hattori mocks the monster's attempt to attack, while the purifier with glasses continues to shoot non-stop. The blue-haired boy says that was his prey, but Suma responds that he wins faster. Even wounded, the beast charges against the purifiers, who are quite intrepid. The green-haired boy comments that the enemy is tougher than he thought. Giving him the reason, the monster on the ground grabs the boy's leg, making him scream in despair. Seeing the situation, Yaji worries and screams to warn his friend that the other beast is about to crush him. The boy looks up, but it seems to be too late. We can see that the chaos has burst in a matter of seconds. Suddenly Kaido appears and says that he will borrow Natsum's shoulder. Winning momentum, the Protoss jumps in the air and prepares to hit the creature with horns, using only his 2 fists. A red light burst occurs with the impact, and everyone wonders how it could be possible. Our boy quickly realizes that now Hattori is the one in trouble, as 2 creatures are looking at him with their sharp teeth. The monkey of hell roars, making the sand smile. The Protoss quickly takes care of his part of the job, and grabbing one of the feet of one of the monsters decides to throw it at the others, who fly out when hit full. Hattori and Suma are with their eyes wide open. Then they decide to take advantage of the situation and attack, ending all the threats. Smiling, Kaido says they are amazing as expected. Irritated and confused, Natsum wonders why the boy is so strong, just like Suma, who wonders how it is possible if Seiki does not have special immunity. Also thinking, Yai wonders if the young could be stronger than Captain Nagato, while Satoru says he thought he was just a rat. A little further, Toriyomi tells the captain that Kaido is moving well, stating that the monster does not seem to be a new model of carrier, which means that there are more hidden. Floating, the Protoss tries to understand what is happening. When seeing other monsters surrounding the team, San appears and says that it is because he is there. Even knowing that they are old carrier models, our boy thinks for himself that he has a bad feeling about this situation. We see that the feeling of Seiki is correct. A terrifying creature appears to hide underground. The team remains positioned, waiting for the attack. Without a doubt, the monsters decide that it is time and load. However, a hit lands on one of the monkeys with horns, delivered by our boy who pushes the creature. Matsum asks if this boy is really just a 6th grade student. Satoru says it is obvious that the boy is at the same level as Nagato, perhaps even stronger. Although he thought the same a few minutes ago, Yagi tells him to calm down instead of saying nonsense. Suddenly something catches the attention of the girl, and when looking at it, he realizes that there are 5 beasts about to fall on her and her partner, but luckily someone stops the creatures, which are made of pieces. After saving almost everyone, Nagato says they are in enemy territory and must remain alert. Excited, the Protoss thinks about how he did not even see the woman attack. Excited, the blonde purifier says that without a doubt the captain is the strongest. A few minutes later, Satoru says that they have already eliminated 20 enemies, but the girl in pink hair does not agree, since the numbers do not match, since the count of contamination is about 5,000, but the enemies only had 100 of contamination. Kaido decides to ask what the ant thinks. She says that the purifier is right, and that there is something strong lurking in the shadows. Worried, the Protoss asks if it is only 1. Recalling the highest recorded level of contamination, 1800, the girl in red says that hiding is not the word, referring to how the ground under Yagi's feet is cracking. Activating her power, our boy manages to save the purifier in the last second. While he tries to find out what kind of monster has just come out of the ground, smiling, San says he warned them, and that from the beginning Kaido knew it. Suddenly the creature, which looks like a carnivorous plant, grabs Suma, who begins to be swallowed, until the monster closes its mouth. Excited, the young red-haired says that was epic, and that perhaps the creature is one of those who melt their prey for better flavor. Screaming, Seiki tells him to stop laughing. The other members of the team charge against the enemy, furious for losing one of theirs. With his bronze knots, Anitsune begins to throw punches, while Satori attacks with a sword. The problem is that apparently none of the boys are very lucky. A red gas begins to leak from the monster, which opens its mouth again to continue its food. Even the oldest purifier in the group is in shock. Seeing Nagato enter battle, he says that this is a new type of enemy, and asks him to return. However, the purifier does not listen, and with its sword, it does a blow that crosses several parts of the huge and monstrous plant. With his mouth open, Kaido asks how the damage was not nullified. San says that it was actually, but the shine around Nagato's weapon is so dense that the process of cancellation cannot keep up with the rhythm. The vice captain and the captain observe how the dust settles until the man decides to attack the main body of the monster, which is underground. With his axe he attacks with a brutal blow, causing a huge roar that echoes throughout the forest. From the ground, what appears to be a purple fog begins to rise, revealing the hole in which some red eyes appear. Seiki says that without a doubt the purifier was right, while the creature makes strange noises. Suddenly, a plant tentacle is thrown on the Prota, who flees to save himself and Yagi, who is still in his arms. Determined, the monster decides to try again, forcing our boy to leave the purifier and confront him. With both hands, he grabs the tentacle and pulls the creature with all his strength, waiting to drag it out of its hiding place. Surprisingly, Kaido's plan works, lifting a huge cloud of dust. Still smiling, Tia says it is the first time that thing comes out to the surface, claiming that they are facing a medium-level transporter. With his mouth open, Yagi checks the level of contamination, and is even more surprised when he sees the number 3070 on the screen of his doll's device, screaming. Matsum asks how that thing has a level of contamination higher than 3000. Thinking, Kaido wonders what he should do and if it would be smart to use his power. Suddenly, Hattori screams at Nagato, reminding him of Suma. Without thinking about it, the purifier prepares to attack. Explaining, Sand says that the biggest difference between low and medium level operators also lies in the force, obviously. Nagato jumps in the air and prepares to attack. But when he gets close enough, he finds himself face to face with Suma, who is not having his best day. Seeing a companion in that state makes the woman freeze. Tia then says that beyond the force, medium-level operators are also smart. Seeing that Nagato failed his blow, Tori only calls her an idiot, but still jumps into the fight to save the captain, who barely dodges a blow. What a scare! The one who receives the worst blow is the vice captain. After being hit against a tree, he is unconscious. Nagato and the team begin to be scared, but then bam, the creature goes back to the purifier. She tries to defend herself with her sword. Crying, Suma begs for help, totally distracting the blonde woman. Furious, Tori decides that it is time to make the enemy pay, and he swings his two swords like a true boss. The creature, using the body of the swallowed purifier, turns abruptly. Did he definitely see who attacked him? The blue-haired boy is hit hard by one of the creature's arms and starts spitting strawberry juice everywhere, leaving Mansoor and Nagato in total panic mode. Running towards his friend, the blonde boy asks if he's okay, but Tori starts making strange noises, which scares the purifier a bit. Suddenly, the blue-haired boy, now infected, bites Natsu's shoulder, spreading the virus faster than a TikTok trend. Turning around, Tori points at Yagi, who with his eyes wide open says, "This cannot be happening." Then he asks with a trembling voice, "What's wrong with your friends?" Screaming, Kaido tells the young woman not to approach, but he is destroyed by a creature's tentacle, leaving him seriously wounded. Nagato continues to defend himself as best he can, while Suma, terrified, says it hurts, begging the purifier to help him again. Suddenly, the infected team members appear behind her and quickly realize that they are now monsters before their innocent friends, now nightmares. The scene breaks Nagato's heart, leaving her speechless. Closing her eyes, the purifier tries to contain her tears. Suddenly, a strong earthquake occurs, and we see that Kaido is more than fine and ready to save the day. Looking at the monster, the protagonist says that he is the one who wants to eat, so he will be the perfect opponent. Using the power of the arena, our boy throws the zombie team members away, then asks if Nagato can move. Without responding and trembling like a leaf, the purifier shows that he can't. Seiki thinks this is not good, and lifts her gently. Running, he arrives at the place where Toriyomi is, and puts Nagato on the ground. Returning to the battle, he tells her to take care of the vice captain's wounds. Intrigued, the purifier notices something different in the boy. Looking at his pollution device, he realizes that he is under the influence of the carrier. Running at high speed, the protagonist asks how he is doing well after being bitten. Smiling, Sand says that the virus of a weakling is no problem. The zombie trio approaches Kaido, and Natsu is the first to try to attack him. Our boy manages to dodge the blow like a professional, and takes the opportunity to counterattack. Undoubtedly, the other two zombie purifiers charge against him, forcing him to use his guadana to throw them away. San asks if Seiki will not be softer with the young. Irritated, he says that it is easy for her to say that. Suddenly the carnivorous plants appear again. Our boy decides to untie his rotating guadana, and without losing that determined look, he sends pieces of plant flying everywhere. But instead of cutting, new plants begin to grow, making Kaido realize that the monster is regenerating, which is annoying. When he is attacked again, the protagonist dodges what irritates the boss a bit. Running, our boy says that that also bothers him, showing that he is ready to end this fight soon. The creature decides to turn its tentacles into thorns and throws them all at him, but it is too fast and it escapes easily. Holding the guadana with force shows how it is done, and cuts all the tentacles of the monstrous plant. Furious, the monster realizes that it will not be easy to take it off. As it continues to approach, transformed, Seiki grabs the tentacles and jumps, leaving a trace of destruction at his foot. He says that he is used to it. When he hears this, the creature, still using the face of Suma, trembles. Suddenly, Kaido hits the enemy's trunk, which begins to scream in pain. Feeling something strange, our boy turns around, but it is too late, since Natsum attacks him from behind, giving the creature time to recover. Without another option, Seiki exchanges blows with the zombie boy, until he finally manages to knock him down forever. Yaji and Hattori also decide to intervene, forcing the protagonist to do something he really doesn't want to do. After dealing with the purifiers, he decides to leave and disappear. And guess what? He didn't kill anyone, he just caught them. Smiling, Sand says that even without his body, he is still skillful, and that he can put many wives at the same time. Then he asks why Seiki is catching the boys, although he knows that there is no turning back once someone becomes a foodie. Furious, our boy says he understands. The aunt intervenes, saying that it doesn't make much sense, and that sooner or later the worst is yet to come. Screaming, the main character insists again that he knows. Sticking to his shoulders, the red-haired girl says it doesn't look like that, and that human feelings are super confusing. Trying to stay focused, Kaido charges against the target, which even hit is still standing. We see that the creature vibrates intensely, showing a creepy smile. He takes out his tentacles again, but not towards our hero, but towards Hattori and Natsum, who are hit hard. Then the dragon is dragged closer by the monster. Confused, the protagonist wonders why he saved the foodies. Knowing what is about to happen, the ant says that, in reality, that is just a way to prepare a meal. Carrying on, the creature sucks all the energy it can from the captured purifiers. Still lost, our boy asks what the young one is talking about, since the foodies usually go with transporters. Sand says that it's not even close to that, then explains that the carriers attack humans to cool their virus. But since the low-level ones are stupid, they jump straight to the food. Useless, since the virus only multiplies into living cells. Understanding it now, Kaido asks if that means people like Fitter or Mio who got infected. Without ending it, Sand says that for a transporter, those people are foods full of virus and super nutritious, especially the foodies who attack other humans and create more, making the food multiply on its own. Annoying, Kaido tells the young girl to stop joking. Without mutating, Sand says that this is just a way to increase food production, something that humans also do. Furious, the protagonist tells her to shut up. Meanwhile, Nagato is quiet next to Toriomi. With a broken heart and crying, the purifier looks at Seiki, who is totally lost on how to react. But the creature decides that it's time to attack again, making new tentacles appear. Now that it's well fed, happy with the feast, he lets go of a sinister laugh. Decided to ruin the party, Seiki charges forward, and again he dodges all the blows, while cutting and chopping without rest, although it is something useless, since the monster's healing is at another level. Worried, he tries to evaluate the situation a little, realizing that he cannot handle everything with that weapon alone. One of the monster's heads comes out of the ground and almost eats the prototype, who moves away from a jump. The monster finds that hilarious, and sends another wave of tentacles to catch the guy in the air.
Suddenly, a massive explosion occurs.
And we see Seiki totally breathless, surrounded by tentacles that have been cut by his two giant swords. Since he finally abandoned the Guadana, with his eyes shining in red, he tells the enemy that he shouldn't think he can devour it so easily, showing that it is also hard when it matters. The monster envelopes Seiki again, who has a serious expression on his face, while he feels that the tentacles are closing. Just at the right moment, the prototype raises his two swords. The monster is stunned by such power. Even so, the creature decides that it will not retreat. Our boy starts running and cutting without stopping, demonstrating that he will not give up on reaching where he needs to protect himself. The infernal plant puts two tentacles in front of his face, but both are cut by Kaido, who kicks what remains. We see that the prototype almost arrives, but suddenly the creature grabs its swords, forcing it to release them. To the surprise of the monster, the swords simply disappear and reappear in the hand of our boy, who, without thinking twice, hits with both. The face of Suma begins to change while the creature screams. Seiki retreats while pieces of plant fly everywhere, landing on the ground to check the damage it has done. Suddenly, a strange face appears where the purifier face used to be, but our boy seems super boring to him, since the fight seems to have no end. Frenetic, the creature devises Ayagi, Nagato and Toriomi, and shows a terrifying smile before throwing its tentacles at the duo. Turning around, Kaido quickly realizes what is about to happen, and jumps from where he is to get ahead. Due to this movement, he receives a strong blow on the back, losing a bit of balance. The monster charges at the pink-haired girl with a scream. The prototype throws its two swords, swearing to protect it, and keeping its word, cuts a tentacle of the monster, which gives it a solid sense of relief. But then, another part of that creepy infernal plant comes out of the ground. Now all that's left is his hands to defend himself, and with a brutal impact, Kaido flies away, while the tentacle he just cut grows again. The monster shows its power as if it were in a gym competition. Our boy whispers that this regeneration thing is super annoying, and Tia says, "Are you stupid or what?" She points out that she has enough energy for a final blow, but she's stuck taking care of the girl, who is basically a dead weight. Furious, the prototype tells its pet creature to shut up. Then, she feels curious about this plant monster, asking if it really absorbs nutrients from the ground, but Tia says, "Nah, carriers don't do that. This monster has miasma stones, which makes it too easy to regenerate." Without knowing what to do, the prototype asks how they can knock it down. Sand suggests to crush everything at once or continue cutting until it runs out of energy. But he says, "Friend, that's too much for someone like you. You're not ready to fight a middle-class carrier, so it's better for the boy to get rid of the dead weight and leave." Seeing that Kaido is not going to run away, the red-haired girl asks if she's ready to fight to the death. Our boy says, "I didn't plan to die," but Tia replies, "That's exactly what will happen if you keep doing that." Then Seiki intervenes, saying there's another way, and Sans asks, "Are you talking about her eating you again?" With a determined look, the prototype says, "Yes, that's the plan." Worried, Sans doesn't accept it, but the boy insists he'll do anything to save his sister, even join a carrier and eliminate someone who was human, but abandoning his team in no way. Tia then says that her teacher never listens and will do whatever he wants, but since she's upset, she'll make it hurt a little more and take a little extra. When she bites, Seiki starts screaming. Frozen, the monster tries to figure out what's going on, while the prototype continues screaming while his body transforms. The scene scares the carnivorous creature. Smiling, Tia tells him to crush that weak monster once and for all. And now Kaido has horns. With a superhuman jump, our boy charges at the target. With his mouth open, Nagato finally divides Tia, while the prototype charges and continues to move forward. Once it's close enough, it unleashes a burst of blows that make the enemy scream in pain and despair. A massive explosion explodes, lifting a huge cloud of dust. With the work done, the prototype can't wait to see what happened, and realizes that the monster has completely covered himself and is trying to retreat. Pursuing him, he screams that he won't escape. Attacking quickly underground, one of his blows hits the weak point of the monster, causing him to lose his head. Tia smiles, relieved that it's finally over. The monster tries to regenerate, but his ability seems to have reached its limit, and the red-haired girl, smiling, says it's useless. A middle class has no chance against its upper class. Sticky approaches where the monster is trapped, and extends his hand to take what he needs, which are the miasma stones all connected in one point. Excited, Tia asks if the prototype can feel the stones now. Using his dirty trick again, the creature begins to use the face of Suma to ask for help. While he pleads for forgiveness, a scene makes the prototype doubt, but Tia hurries to remind him that the monster is only imitating the human it absorbed, and that the purifier is no longer there. Hearing this, Sticky tightens his teeth, but finds the courage he needs, and sinks his hand into the monster's body, which begins to scream again. When our boy grabs what kept his enemy alive, he simply disappears like magic. Holding the stone, the prototype trembles, feeling a mixture of anger and sadness. Tia appears and asks if he realizes that he is becoming more like a carrier. Pensive, Sticky studies the miasma blue stone clearly in his hand, but suddenly his vision becomes blurry and he begins to lose balance until he falls on his knees with Nagato right in front of him, remembering everything that boy saw, although now it seems normal again. Toriyama screams for the purifier, taking it out of his thoughts. The vice captain says that Yagi is about to free himself and needs help to tie the girl. Turning around, the captain intervenes, saying that she will cover him. Suddenly, Kaido's body begins to act strangely, transforming into a monstrous version of himself, charging against Nagato, who is only there standing, totally confused. Then boom, a massive explosion and red tones explode, all thanks to our boy who has just suffered a brutal blow. When he sees the purifier escape, he thinks to himself, did I think I had him under control? When he notices that the boy's voice sounds strange, the blonde asks if he is still Sticky, but the young redhead intervenes saying that his host was tired, so she took control for a while. With a trembling voice, Nagato asks if that means that he is a carrier. Greeting with militia, Tia says, yes, any problem with that? When he hears this, the purifier is furious, but the redhead creature doesn't care, saying that he cannot ignore the woman, who unlike Tino has eyes full of hatred towards the carriers. Posed on a branch, the purifier asks what Tia plans since she is a parasite in Kaito. Offended, Sans says that he prefers to call him coexistence, since it helps the boy and gives him power. Receiving some food in return, the heroine thinks this is impossible, but the carrier says, I don't care what you think, and preparing to attack, says that letting her live would be a problem, so although she is not in full power, she is ready to eliminate her. Showing her strength, Tia provokes an explosion around her. Trying to protect herself, Nagato thinks this is a joke, and asks the vice captain to take care of Yagi. Suddenly, the level of contamination meter in the purifier dolls begins to beep, marking an incredible 5844. Closing her eyes, Nagato says that he cannot ignore that. Descending from the branch declares that it is his duty as a purifier, so he is somewhat relieved that the carrier has shown herself, since it will make it much easier to purify her. An intense exchange of blows begins, with Tia blocking everything even without being in full power. Kaido wakes up, realizing that he is only a spectator in his own body. Curious, he asks who is fighting Nagato, quickly realizing that it is against him. Tia appears and asks if he is awake. Once he sees that he is, he approaches and says that he is taking advantage of his body. The proto asks why. The young lady explains that she thought of eliminating the purifier, since she came to him with plans to kill him, and since the boy would not do what was necessary, she decided to take care of him, so he should relax. Unable to move, Seki screams to the carrier to stop, but all she gets is a smile in return. Outside, Nagato continues to throw blows. Tia then says, for someone who was crying a minute ago, are you fighting quite well? Carrying forward, the purifier says that it does not need the help of a carrier. With one hand, the red-haired girl stops the woman's sword. Then she asks if she really believes that it was a compliment. After blocking the attack, the carrier decides to counterattack, but Nagato is too fast and dodges. While she tries to kick her, Tia also manages to dodge, while she snatches the sword from the purifier. But an Abdato recovers his weapon in the air and takes the opportunity to basket some blows that shine in yellow. With a smile, Tia says that the woman is not very good, and she attacks again with all her strength. The purifier dodges and hits the carrier from behind, causing a huge explosion. But with very open eyes, she realizes that once again the creature defended itself. Finding it hilarious, Tia says that she made things a little more difficult, leaving the captain and the vice captain stunned by her power. Showing her skills, the red-haired girl lifts Nagato in the air, and says that now she's going to hit her harder. Without much to do, the purifier crosses her arms in front of her body, before being hit by a super powerful attack, sending her flying and crashing on her knees, leaving Torihome worried. we see a necklace fall off the purifier's neck, and it opens when hitting the ground, revealing a picture of her as a girl on her father's back. Looking at the picture destroys the purifier's heart, as does breaking Seki's heart, who begins to remember when he was little, and Seki wanted to be like his father when he grew up. Even being just a reporter, the man says that listening to that from his own son makes him feel super proud as a father. We return to that wild day when a monster erupted in the boy's family party, forcing his father to fight and protect him and Mio no matter what. Hugging his sister, Seki screams for the man, but he only smiles and says he has it in him, before jumping on the road with the monster, and yes, he doesn't make it. Leaving the broken heart, we return to Nagato, who continues to look sad and so on. Suddenly, one of the arms of the star carrier against the tree next to her, wrapping the purifier as if it were a game of persecution. Our boy tries to take control and tells his aunt to relax. Smiling, the carrier acts impressed and says that the woman only bothers since just as he protected Mio, he could also eliminate any other obstacle. Seki intervenes, saying that Nagato is not like the beast he knocked down before. The carrier sits down saying he understands. He believes that she is still human, and begins to remember when the boy said that a carrier will always be a carrier. Aunt claims that the proto is on the side of the carriers now, and our boy insists that he is still human. Hearing that, the young red-haired girl makes the fallen feel something strange in her head. Turning around, she warns him that if he eliminates the purifier, she will never be forgiven. Suddenly, Aunt decides to let go of the prodigy, who falls directly into Nagato's arms. In front of the purifier, the carrier says, just so he knows, even if the woman eliminates Kaido, she will not disappear. She is much stronger without rules. And since Seki saved everyone's lives, she wants to believe that humans are not enough murky as to pay for kindness with betrayal. And starts to look at Yagi, who continues in zombie mode, and without thinking twice, she goes for the girl, leaving the purifier in shock. She explains that she injected a little of her virus to the young girl, which will keep her calm for a few days. And as everything is fine now, she returns to her place. Nagato stays alone again, still holding Seki, then remembers his team, which was totally destroyed. Out of nowhere, Torihumi runs towards the woman, while Kaido sleeps on his shoulder. After a while, he wakes up in a bed and asks where he is. Next to him, Nagato asks if the protobot has finally woken up, surprising him. Responding, she says they are in his apartment. Even a little scared, our boy says he understands. Looking forward, he sees the vice captain and Tino, who are also looking at him closely. The hero then says that the boy slept all day, and asks how he feels. Our boy says he's fine and asks what the association knows. Tino tells him not to worry, because only the people in that room know his secret. Torihumi apologizes for bothering him, but he spent the whole night cleaning up the mess, which left him exhausted, so the interrogation should begin. Kaido explains that she was a medium-level carrier, but there are other much stronger ones like Tia. Nagato then asks why she joined a creature. Tino tells the woman to take care of her words, and feeling close enough to the protobot, he takes a step forward and says that Kaido worked with a carrier named Malaysia to save his own sister, so the purifier should not act as if she were a traitor. Embarrassed, Nagato says that was not his intention. Torihumi tells them to calm down, saying it's time for Seki to introduce them to Malaysia. The protagonist calls the creature, which appears quickly, sitting in bed with the boy, making Nagato very nervous. Smiling, he says that the purifier does not need to be so tense. After all, they agreed not to keep grudges. The vice captain sits down and tells the woman that the deal was to act without violence. With nothing more to do, the captain apologizes. The group's senior then thanks Tia, because thanks to her they were able to move Yagi. Worried, Kaido asks what will happen to the young woman. Explaining, the vice captain says that the girl is in quarantine, in the medical center of the Adaki branch, but they officially informed that Yagi died in the fulfillment of the duty, since if they discovered the truth, the purifier would become a subject of investigation, which is totally unnecessary since there are other ways to get answers, such as through Malaysia. The purifier then says that they have no idea how to cure someone who has become a foodie, and that if Yagi continues to receive her virus, she will be contained but will die in a month. Nagato then says that it is the same, that this could happen to Kaido, but the purifier says that the boy is his host and that is why he will keep him alive no matter what. Hearing this makes the captain sweat. Tia says that she would like to know more about this. Then asking what is the goal of the transporters and what they really want, Malaysia says that the reason is quite obvious, but suddenly the bad vibe hits her, making her eyes open in pairs. Seki asks what's going on. With a serious look, Tia says that apparently a high-level purifier has just arrived. In another place we see a creature asking why Malaysia has not given any updates. Babiando, the purifier, then says that he is dying of hunger. Quickly, seeing some humans walking down the street, he crosses arms asking how many of them he can devour. It turns out that the heroes are about to face Cranhide, a high-level class 4 purifier. The protagonist, along with the red-haired girl, warns the team that an important transporter has just appeared. This leaves the rest of the group a little emotional. Intrigued, the group's mayor says that the detector did not detect anything. The girl with red eyes then says that the problem is 10 kilometers around Shibuya Station, and there is no reaction because the virus is contained. Our boy asks if that is even possible. Making a joke, the girl says yes, and explains that the contamination factor in the carriers is activated when they bathe, and they cannot control their hunger. The main operators usually do not allow them to get so far, opening the system. The blonde girl says that around Shibuya Station there are reports of a tunnel from another world, and since the responsible teenager has already gone to check, should they also leave? Worried, the boy in white hair asks how bad it would be if a main transporter opened to pass. Without losing rhythm, the blonde girl says that probably in a few days all of Japan would be lunch. Then she adds that this is not something that can be stopped. Standing up, the man says that at least he should receive a bonus and a special assignment to go to the scene. The protagonist also gets up, but suddenly he feels a massive headache in the head. The blonde girl then says that Seiki is not in good shape, so he should relax and wait. Although the boy protests, the young girl says it is in order. Without another option, our boy only says that he understands. Before leaving, the older man says that it is too valuable and should not be launched unless it is 100%. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, we see the problem of another world crashing. The creature with purple and green hair seems confused, while the people around him wonder how it simply fell from the sky. As his first victim, the boy in the cape touches the shoulder of a girl. She feels something strange but does not quite understand what has just happened. Her boyfriend gets upset, but she says that everything is fine. A reporter approaches the monster, asking if she is Sikh. Assuming that he finds his unique appearance without saying a word, the villain puts a finger in the mouth of the young girl. She is just as confused, while her assistant says that they should try to talk to another person. The monster continues to walk and touches the face of a guy in a suit that passes by. Nervous, the guy asks what is happening to the young man doing that. Not getting an answer, he decides to move on and call a taxi. Walking down the street, even with green light, the monster stops and looking up, asks where someone could be. Nervous, a guy jumps out of the car after almost hitting him and tells him to hurry up. A girl intervenes and says that she will take care of it. Embarrassed, the guy jumps back into the car, asking the young girl to really do what she said. A group approaches Mizuno and tells him not to forget that it is his first day. Smiling, the girl thanks them and one of the boys asks if the monster is at least listening. The creature takes a look without turning his head much and then ignores them again. Annoying, the guy says that staying still on the street is super annoying. Putting a hand on his face, the monster thinks that apparently there are also humans like that. Claiming in a loud voice that they really stink, the two boys seem confused. But the monster says that liking or hating something is not really his style. Then he causes a massive explosion of purple light that raises the contamination factor to 35,982. Suddenly the monster approaches and puts both hands under the faces of the two boys, making their faces begin to deform until they simply explode, sprinkling strawberry juice everywhere. Mizuno observes everything with his mouth open. The monster then says that his tongue is spinning, which honestly is already a pleasure. Another guy approaches and grabs his shoulder, but before he can even ask a question, he also bites the dust, which only leaves the girl even more excited. The creature approaches and casually releases what has just annihilated everyone before infecting, causing a total panic among the crowd with a darker vibe than a black hole. The crank says that he doesn't like people touching him. After letting go of a scream that could wake the neighbors, Mizuno takes out his sword, but trembling like a leaf, his opponent tells him not to flee, since eating leftovers is not his style. Meanwhile, in the apartment where the main character is relaxed, the young girl says that it was time for chaos to break out, and our boy asks what he's talking about. She explains that once the coordinates are fixed, they cannot be created too far, and since Japan is basically just a small island, the tunnel will not appear in the form. They have to expand the island's buffet area. Listening to this makes our boy furious, and the girl says she would like him to relax a little. Returning to the explanation, she says that if they look for expansion, low-level operators from 10 years ago have no chance, and our boy says there are purifiers out there. But she responds by saying that the main carriers are patients, and for a normal human he has a fairly large ego. We return to the city, where the monster has Mizuno by the neck, ready to plant his seeds as if it were time for gardening. The couple from before continues to walk the streets, chatting just like the reporter and her assistant. The man in the suit and tie is relaxed in his taxi. Then the monster scratches his fingers. Suddenly the young girl's girlfriend starts screaming at every lung. Finding it hilarious, the young man says that she is totally exaggerating, but out of nowhere, she transforms completely into a beast and attacks him. The reporter also becomes a displeasing creature, leaving the guy with the hat on. Inside the taxi, the man in the suit tries to attack the driver, who, in shock, loses control of the car and crashes into a truck,
causant une massive explosion.
Suddenly, between the flames, those poor souls, now zombies, begin to crawl out, even with their bodies in flames. Smiling, the creature says it's time to expand its buffet area and wait for its prey to fall into the trap. Chaos explodes in the city, making people run for their lives as if it were a Black Friday sale. Hidden, the reporter's assistant films the madness, while he asks what the hell is going on, concluding that without a doubt, someone opened the gates of hell. The brain behind everything stays there. Satisfied with the chaos, seeing how calm it is makes the cameraman ask why he's not running. But suddenly the creature vanishes before his eyes, reappearing as if by magic by his side with a dark look. The monster asks what the young man is doing there, and enjoying the look of pure terror, claiming that he does not care at all for the answer. The camera falls and all we hear is the scream of the young man. The protagonist is glued to the television, and when he realizes that Kranheit is in the city, he runs out towards the door, but the red-haired girl activates her power, wrapping him in a kind of red string. With our boy with his face on the ground, the girl asks where he thinks he's going. Screaming, he says he needs to go knock down the creature, but she says he won't let him go since he can't face the enemy. Trying to convince her, he insists that they can win if they join with the high-level purifier Mikadono and the others. In disagreement, she says that if he goes there, Kranheit will know that she exists, which will only make things worse. Tightening his teeth, he says there is nothing worse than all those people dying out there. Looking at him with his impressive red eyes, she says this has nothing to do with them. Suddenly, his phone starts to ring, and on the other side, Nagato calls Seiki. Then he warns that a lot of people have already been turned into food, but they wait to calm everyone down, just as they did with Yagi. They just need to know if it's possible. Our boy remains silent, even on the ground. The red-haired girl then says that doing that is impossible, and she doesn't say it out of spite, but because she knows that the original function of the virus is to spread while destroying cells, which means that reversing the process would require a serious increase in power. Even with sadness, the blonde girl says she understands. Hearing all this, the blue-haired boy asks his boss about the self-defense forces they requested. The man then says that Ichigaya's squad, Miss Hookah's squad, and Meguro's squad are on their way, and since the cat's house is in the Minato district, he can jump to Shibuya from the east. The young man says he understands and warns that saving the infected is impossible, leaving only the option of eliminating them. But the boss with authority responds, as the media have not yet said anything, doing that will make everyone think it was a direct murder, so he will not let the team move until the self-defense forces arrive. There is not much more to add. The young man only says that everyone will do their best. Then he turns around and tells the squad that he will enter first, while the other two must take care of the zombies. Activating his team, Mika loads directly into chaos. Meanwhile, in the midst of the flames, the monster thinks it is quite strange that the number of zombies does not increase as expected. Out of nowhere, a squad of soldiers appears. One of the guys screams that the Origuchi squad has arrived at the Shibuya station, and that someone needs to establish an evacuation route for civilians, but another soldier warns that the tear gas and the tranquilizers are failing repeatedly. Even so, the second lieutenant does not allow them to shoot, saying that they must continue to try to neutralize the threat. The soldiers begin to launch networks waiting to catch the zombies, while they try to advance with their shields. The problem is that there are many infected, and the networks are simply not working. Looking back, the monster says that those must be the soldiers of this world. Then he claims that he does not want them to mess with him. With only one movement of his wrist, he invokes wolves and other monsters that emerge from the ground. When noticing the creatures, the second lieutenant warns everyone that an attack is approaching from behind. Those who can take a quick turn begin to shoot the furious monsters, starting a massive shooting, but the bullets simply bounce on the skin of the creature, showing that this attack is a total failure. With nothing more to do, the soldiers simply freeze, waiting for the worst to hit them. While screaming in pure panic, suddenly a blue ray of light enters, thanks to the arrival of Mika. Then a huge explosion occurs, completely annihilating the monstrous creatures. The explosion is so epic that it can be seen from kilometers away, even through the buildings of the city. A little stunned, the soldiers observe the hero who has just saved them, now face to face with the enemy, showing that he is not afraid of the monster. The young man says that if he came just to relax, it would even be his tour guide, but it will not allow a virus to spread like that, and for that he first has to purify the creature. Smiling, Crank says that he has caught another cold bite. Determined, Micah says that he will take care of the enemy, and tells the soldiers to get the civilians out of there. The boys sit down and begin to retreat. The monster then says that the Tsunosi team are not human, as if he had seen something like that before, loading for the attack. The hero says that he is not here to chat. The monster quickly activates his shield, but Micah breaks the protection with a single blow, leaving the monster a little emotional. In a tone of mockery, the young says that the creature is weaker than he thought, and after accumulating a great impulse, he loads again with his huge sword. To defend himself, the monster raises one of his hands, which begins to cover itself with a strange purple crust, blocking the hero's sword. With a smile, the young shows that it is not over yet, and adding some extra power to his weapon, he slices the hand in the monster's forearm, forcing him to jump back, creating some space to regenerate his wounded arm. A little further, Miko observes everything, but suddenly his opponent disappears from sight, showing that he is not only fast but also very stealthy. In a single jump, the monster appears behind the young, claiming that at this rate he will end up infected. Mika says sorry, then unleashes a massive explosion of light that sends the monster flying and unseals his face. Looking at the creature, the hero says that he is not as strong as he thinks. The monster is clearly injured, and he retreats to regenerate. Without losing his rhythm, the young man who softens the sword loads forward, hitting without stopping with his weapon, while the monster jumps to dodge the blows. Screaming, Mika says that his regeneration is solid but not infinite, so will he keep hitting without ceasing until his body reaches the limit? Regardless, the monster says that this is not possible for him. In the sky, a helicopter is landing on the battlefield. It is a medium-sized ship, trying to transmit the chaos that occurs below. A guy approaches and announces that the first-class purifier faces someone who looks human, but in reality, he is the bearer of the chaos, responsible for the wild disorder in the Shibuya station. We see a crowd in Meguro, all excited watching the great confrontation, and in the Shinjuku War the atmosphere is just as lit. Also, the Minato War is also in full swing. The broadcast is even being played on television at Nagato's house, where the main character and the red-haired girl meet. We return to the battlefield. The monster is trying to dodge Mika's movements, but it doesn't look good. Mika runs everywhere, showing impressive agility. Out of nowhere, the monster throws a car at him, but our hero blocks him with his huge sword. The monster not only lifted a car, even so the hero dodges them all, hitting like a professional, causing another epic explosion that illuminates the scene. Screaming, he asks if the monster really thought that would work, and he simply admits that it's not very good fighting. Then he lifts more cars with his power and throws them back to the young warrior. When he is about to take another hit, he screams that this strategy is totally useless. Jumping into the air towards the cars, it seems that he is about to split into 1,000 pieces. Suddenly, Crank presumes his greatest achievements, his infinite appetite and his endless reserve of virus, revealing that he is about to launch an entire building. The eyes of Mecha open side by side, totally moved by what he is seeing. Still flying through the air, the monster claims that it is super strong. Then he lets the building fly with all its strength. With a worried smile, the hero says that this will not be fun at all. Before being swallowed by a massive explosion, all that remains are the remains of what used to be a building. Crank walks among the rubble, proud of his chaos. Then something catches his attention. He looks to one side and sees a blue ray sprouting from the concrete. In the helicopter, the reporter is losing his head in the scene, screaming that the first-class mecha purifier is still alive. People in the cities are cheering like crazy. The young man does not lose a second and charges directly against the evil creature. Surprise! He says that the boy is tougher than it seems. Screaming, Mecha declares that Crank has not seen anything yet. Then he swings with all his strength, his huge sword shining. A light explosion explodes. While defending himself, the monster affirms that he can say the song about himself. Once again, he brings his green hand and viscous to the young man's face, who jumps back to dodge the attack. The purple light shines for kilometers and radiates over the roofs like a neon sign. After a flash, the young man is ready for the second round, charging forward to attack Crank from the front. Looking at him closely, the creature asks if he does not think it's time to surrender. Screaming, Mecha insists that he is just starting and that he is not alone. Screaming to the soldiers and his team, a little upset, Crank calls him stubborn. The hero supports his sword under the chin to withstand the pressure of the attack, while the monster says that he will simply crush it. Mecha begins to scream from the effort he is making. Smiling, the creature says that this is a god. Still on the ground, Seiki screams for his friend. Suddenly, a yellow light shines on the battlefield, followed by an explosive and massive explosion that starts Crank's arm. Excited, he looks back while the hero tries to recover. A silhouette appears between the smoke. It is Megadu saying that it was quite dangerous. Smiling, Mecha says that he is saving the best for the end. Suddenly his clock starts to ring. It is the soldier who calls to say that they evacuated everyone in a 1-kilometer radius from Shibuya Station. And the young man smiles and thanks. Craig is confused, looking at his own arm on the ground, and turning around he asks if Nagato is stronger than his last opponent. The heroine says that definitely yes, but she wants to point out that Mika is fighting in the city, and has been containing himself. Excited, the monster realizes that he has not seen all the power of the young man. Closing his eyes, the hero warns him. Scared, the creature activates its power again to summon its demonic sequels. But with a quick move, Nagato eliminates the wolves just when he takes Crank's legs off, who falls to the ground with a blow. Mecha thanks the young woman for the help and she says it was nothing. Screaming, the hero tells Crank that he will not need a single crutch from him to tell the story. Unable to get out, he realizes that he is in serious trouble. The hero then launches towards his opponent, radiating a strong and bright light. That will be the last thing the villain sees. A massive blue and green explosion illuminates the sky. From very high up, the cameraman in the helicopter is trying to capture every detail. Out of nowhere, the reporter screams, noting that only Mika is left standing on a piece of land. The hero looks directly at the camera and greets the spectators. With a smile, the reporter announces that the first-class purifier Mika is making a victory, making everyone who looks go crazy. Still on the ground, Seiki says he is super happy for his friends, but when he sees the face of the redhead girl, he asks if Crank was a close friend, and Mika says no. In fact, that guy was the one he hated the most and wanted to eliminate. Confused, the protagonist wonders why she doesn't seem excited. The young woman then says it's because she knows this is not over yet. We change to another part of the city, where, on top of a building, Mizuno is on her knees. Suddenly, something makes her go back as if she had just seen a spider. The young woman admits that she lowered her guard, and that if she hadn't prepared a clone, everything would have gone to hell. Revealing what a surprise, Crank is still alive and in a new body. Looking down at the city, the villain says he is super hungry, then claiming that he thought of saving something for later, but he can't resist much longer. Purple lights begin to shine where Crank is. Still in the place of the battle, Mika says it's time to meet Jada. A soldier appears screaming that the young man was pretty cool, but looking at the remains around he can only think that honestly the purifier is epic. Smiling, he says that the city is destroyed, but it could be much worse without it. Suddenly, the guy drops his weapon and starts screaming. Scared, Mecha tells Megato to activate his special immunity. The young woman jumps into action and both activate their powers. To face the zombie soldier, out of nowhere the creature simply explodes. Confused, the hero wonders how the monster could eat and die at the same time. But seeing the purple lights, he realizes that it is an infection transmitted by air. Worried, Mika quickly contacts her boss to issue an alert code throughout the city. In the helicopter, the reporter feels that something is wrong, but suddenly the purple fog floods the aircraft, making everyone begin to transform until the helicopter crashes and explodes. In another part of the city, a young woman receives the internal evacuation alarm on her phone, but sadly it is already too late. In Minato, we see a mother and her son running, trying to escape the purple fog. They manage to hide in a building. Outside, a man tells them to wait, which scares the little boy. But after a few minutes, 2 hands appear at the glass door, belonging to the man who is now a furious zombie. Still on the terrace, Crank thanks the food, while absorbing all the energy of the chaos that he caused and that enters his mouth and skin, completely restoring his new body. Distracted, he does not notice Mika and Nagato approaching stealthily when they see the creature, who finally realizes that he is not alone. The duo sees that it is Mizuno, the girl from the purifying squad of the 6th class of Seki. Looking at the heroes, Crank says that they are definitely persistent. Surprised, Mika says that this is impossible, listening to everything through the watch of the blonde girl. The proto, still lying on the floor, asks what the hell is going on. Mika stays silent for a few seconds, then tells the boy not to stress, since they only need to finish cleaning. Before attacking, Crank says that since it is full, he will eliminate both, making his fog wrap the 2 heroes and the level of contamination is shot. Desperate, Seki asks if that is Mizuno's voice, but no one answers. Without understanding it, he asks the girl in red why they are fighting Mizuno. She says that probably the main host has taken the girl's body. When hearing this, the eyes of our boy open pair by pair, screams and asks if there is nothing he can do. The girl in red looks to the other side and says it would be impossible for him to win. Even so, the protagonist continues begging him to let him go, pressing his teeth hard and turning aside. The girl says that she already told him not to do that. Without where to resort, Seki begins to remember when Mizuno said that one day he would be recognized as a purifier, but until then she would protect him. The fire begins to grow inside the boy, who realizes that it was Tankstar that someone finally saw him. Using all his strength, he begins to break the rope until it is completely free. Surprised, the girl in red is totally excited while our boy claims that it is his turn to protect Mizuno. She extends her hand, activating her power, and crosses Seki's eyes faster than a TikTok trend. Then out of nowhere he simply faints, stabbing Proto in his arms. The girl says I'm sorry and promises not to make a mistake. So the video ends here. If you don't want to miss the next part, activate the notification bell, and see you next time on the channel.